Tensions at the beach. Honestly, never felt it. Until...
Life changed. I couldn't look at an Aussie the same. They couldn't look at me the same.
You can see the storm coming, but you kind of can't stop it. Send them home!
No one wanted to admit that racism had anything to do with the Cronulla riots.
The slogans and Aussie pride, and what's Aussie pride? I'm an Aussie. I've got pride in Australia. I love Australia. What are you trying to say?
And even up till now, it's like a bad dream.
I just did not think that this could happen in Australia.
My memories going to Cronulla Beach are the best memories that I've had as part of my childhood. I've been going to Cronulla Beach ever since I was a little girl, ever since I could remember. My parents taught me how to swim there. It was amazing as a child. You couldn't get better than that, really.
It was the place to be as a kid, you know. If Mum said we were going to Cronulla on the weekend, we knew that we were going to be up early in the water all day and come home filthy. But, you know, have a really good day as kids.
It's very friendly, it's very bright, very open. Of course, apart from its beautiful beaches, for some reason the people that live there reflect also that. I bought an existing salon, men's hairdressing salon in Cronulla, and that's where I spent most of my years.
I'm a true Shireite, born and bred. I lived my life always at the beach. I love going to the beach because it's the feeling of the salt water, it's the fresh air, it's when it's a good day, the sun shines so much better. I'm currently the Director of Youth Development for North Cronulla Surf Club. Just looking after the youth of tomorrow, trying to give them a path away from badness into a healthy lifestyle.
What I like about Cronulla is the atmosphere, the cleanliness of the beach, the smell, it's freedom. Water is my freedom. It's your peace. And we don't have that in Punchbowl and Bankstown.
Cronulla Beach was always been part of not only the people of Bankstown, but even the people out in Penrith. I think, you know, all western suburbs felt because of the easiest way to get to Cronulla Beach was by transport means, and I think it was the beach to go to. Being a teenager, and when it was hot, you know, you get a few guys, get on the train, and you go to Cronulla. You cross the road, when you get out of the railway station, cross the road and go through the arcade there and go down to Cronulla Beach. Beautiful thing. But as we go through the arcade, there used to be a place that sells surfboards, you know, and we'd muck around. He'll call us, oh, here's the Westies, now where's your Ugg boots? And we'll say, we'll call him back your wax head, and he'll be waxing the boards and things like that. It was great fun.
Our trips to Cronulla were less frequent after September 11, and that's because of the tension that we felt. It didn't necessarily mean that somebody had to do something to us to feel that tension. It could have just been that we would have been made to feel uncomfortable, you know, whether it was looks or, you know, just that particular environment.
When September 11 happened, that was the biggest change in my life, because life from that point on, you were definitely the WOG kid. You were definitely the Muslim, the Arab. And you weren't as welcome or as accepted as you were the day before. I had to justify who I was. what I was, and I had to find an identity for myself that disconnected me from those people. I was always justifying how, yes, I'm Muslim, but I'm not one of those.
We are the generation of media headlines. So you couldn't just be a kid growing up, because you were not just a kid growing up. You were a Lebanese kid growing up, and you were a Lebanese Muslim kid growing up. And if news, like, you know, word got out that, you know, you did something wrong, well, that's not just your issue as a person or your private issue. That is the issue of the community.
It almost felt like at that point that everyone who was of Islamic faith was almost a suspect. That there was this new peering at us. All of a sudden, people sort of forgot that I'm Australian. And it's now become, he's Muslim, he's Lebanese. You know, like, there was always that undercurrent, but it really now sort of came to the fore.
I guess after 2001, after September 11th, then it's the issue of being Lebanese, being an Arab, being a Muslim, and so on, and it started to appear. People ask me questions, wondering about my views, what do I think of Osama bin Laden, stuff like that. From the day I landed here, I decided to become an Australian by all means and adopt this country, and I believe people adopted me as well. But after those experiences, I started wondering about that.
When I visit my customers, and the first thing they say, oh, he's a terrorist. So, and we have to find a way to turn this into a joke. Because when you hear it once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times from the same people and again, it becomes something sitting inside you, and it's very, very hard to continue to live in that particular environment.
Generally, being a young person, you get a feel for things, you know, when you're walking around the streets and, you know, people might talk to you in a different way, or you pick up on little vibes. And so you felt like there was this thing, and perhaps because of the, you know, there's obviously incidents and stuff that happened with September 11, all that stuff, there was this big, I'll say anti-Middle Eastern, I'm not going to say Muslim or Christian, sentiment out there, and you felt that. You were just waiting for that pin to hit that balloon so it can explode.
I think it was the October long weekend of that year. It was a really hot weekend, and all of a sudden crowds came in, and there were crowds of young men. There was a different feel to the place. The police had to be called every day that weekend. There were a few altercations and things.
Cronulla was, you know, that was my local beach. It got to a point where, you know, there was a lot of Lebanese coming to the suburb, into the beach, enjoying it, but they were pretty antisocial. There was harassment of the girls that were lying on the beach. There was intimidation towards other males. These guys went to the beach in groups, and they kicked their soccer balls around or their footies around. No dramas, but, you know, if they kicked it and someone lying there on the beach sunbaking and got a reaction, they would, you know, they wouldn't back off.
Young girls couldn't go on the beach because as they're going in the water, they'd pull their bikini tops undone and things like that. So it just was not a place where you would like your kids to be, and it really concerned me because I thought we're never going to have any families that would feel comfortable to come down to this beach. It was just a bit of an oppressive air, and it was a bit scary. I thought they were Lebanese, but they weren't the only ones causing trouble. It doesn't matter what race you are. The behaviour was just completely unacceptable. So I don't care, Aussie, Lebanese, Chinese, whatever, not acceptable.
many, this was not just a brutal crime, but an act of sacrilege. Young volunteer surf lifesavers bashed while giving up their weekend to help others.
This attack is not Australian and is absolutely unacceptable as far as we're concerned.
4 lifesavers had just finished an 8-hour patrol at North Cronulla when they were abused by several men described as of Middle Eastern appearance.
It's like two groups of warring factions of just age and testosterone. Push come to shove, whacks here and there. There was supposedly a metal pole involved, and the rest is history because it then became media. Fantastic for the like sensations for papers of that. The shock jocks were behind it. You know, this is an Australian way of life, and here's these lifesavers that have been attacked. Well, I don't think it was quite attacked. I think it was a situation that grew from one to the other. Might have been a little bit of bark off here and there and a couple of scratches from a standard fight. But for it to blow out beyond that, you know, that wouldn't have been the only fight that's ever happened on the beach between groups. And so suddenly this one was made out to be something absolutely sensationalism because it was seen as being an attack on an Australian culture, an Australian icon, which was the surf lifesaver.
During the week, I was hearing from customers that the lifesaver had been hit or punched or something. And it was sort of like mixed information. I think it was very unclear. No one knew exactly what had happened. You know, first they were saying it was a lifesaver, and then they were saying, well, the lifesaver wasn't on duty. He wasn't in his outfit when he was attacked or something. And then they were saying that he provoked it, and then they were saying, oh, he was an innocent bystander. So there was a lot of talk about what was going on.
What kind of grubs? Well, I tell you what kind of grubs this lot were. This lot were Middle Eastern grubs.
There we go.
And you're not allowed to say it, but I'm saying it.
Particular words like thugs, Middle Eastern appearance, that was the big one, like Middle Eastern appearance. You know, seriously, what does Middle Eastern appearance look like? Because when you say that to me, I think of fairly dark, you know, sort of tall, dark hair. But, you know, my little brother is blonde, white and blue eyes. Does that not make he's not of Middle Eastern appearance, but guess what? He's Middle Eastern blood. So I don't sort of, you know, like it's just a whole nother case of stereotyping and generalising at a whole nother level.
Greg says, here I go again. Sitting there in your studio, I wish you could visualise North Cronulla Beach. It's not just a few Middle Eastern bastards at a weekend, it's thousands. Cronulla's a very long beach and has been taken over by these scum.
I remember actually once we got a call from 2GB and asked me for an interview. So it got to a stage where we'll want to hear from the president of the Lebanese Muslim Association. We'll call him. Let's get him on the phone. Let's have a look what he has to say about these thugs and so forth. And lucky enough, one of my secretaries, she had already documented the word thugs, how many times he used, what type of words he used, negative word to get the people hyperactive, if you like. I said to him that in the last 3 hours you've said 1, 2, 3, you said 1, 2, 3, you said 1, 2, 3, and I've sort of just uploaded that information to him. And I remember very, very well that day. I must have got over 50 phone calls from people, non-Muslims, non-Lebanese, from your local, normal Australian, who called me up and say, congratulations, it's about time somebody told him where he was going wrong.
One thing Alan Jones has got is he's got a very good gift of the gab. He knows how to talk and he knows how to motivate people. And when I say he motivates people with his comments, and obviously his comments were very direct, and I think it stirred up a lot of emotion with people out there listening. And I think what it did was just made that anger level rise.
John has a good answer. He says, my suggestion is to invite one of the biker gangs to be present in numbers at Cronulla Railway Station when these Lebanese thugs arrive. It'll be worth the price of admission to watch these cowards scurry back onto the train for the return trip to their lairs.
I don't know why Alan Jones says many of the things he says. From what I've noticed as a Muslim girl growing up in Australia who identifies herself as Australian, talking about Muslims gets ratings.
When you're in a taxi, I suppose
Maybe I'm not the type to listen too much music. If you're really tired and you really want to wake up, you listen to Alan Jones, because he wakes you up, he stirs you up. Me coming from a Lebanese Muslim background, I don't know if he's got an issue with us or not, but I think he does.
Mate, look, I know how to keep those Middle Eastern thugs off the beach. Yep. Quite easy, mate. Just get our women to dress like their women. There's nothing for them to go down and perv out. They don't go down to swim. Hell, and they're certainly not going down to have a wash. We know that.
So he says they're not going down there to wash. We wash 5 times a day. I wonder if he does. So we do 5 prayers a day, and before you do your prayers, you have to wash. If you can't believe that that was racially motivated, stirring up the pot, I don't know what world you're living in.
When you started to see messages going around that there's going to be a WOG Day bash or something. It was sent so quick that I think everyone in Sydney, in our areas anyway, and in Cronulla and Maroubra and everything, received that text. It was disgusting. I honestly feared for my life. I thought, gosh, I think everyone did.
I used to run a cafe in Cronulla. It's called Blue Pacific Cafe. In the middle of the week, with some customers in our shop, they're saying, oh, I just received a text there. What is it for? I'll come down to Cronulla on the weekend. And I said, what for? They're just saying, come down to Cronulla. It's got to be big thing in Cronulla, come down to Cronulla. I thought this is a joke. But the way how that message everywhere wasn't a joke.
I was flabbergasted, really, that I heard that there were text messages going out. You know, come down to I don't know who was sending the text messages, but I just said to staff, we are going to have every idiot in Sydney here on the weekend.
It wasn't until later on in the week, till about Thursday or so, that my work neighbour kind of just went, oh no, there's a bad vibe going on, you know. And I think that had all changed with also the talkback stuff, and, you know, they were sort of agitating people, you know, and it was, instead of just sort of having a demonstration or a reclaiming the beach, it was sort of like, let's show them what we want, or, you know, let's show them that we want our beaches back. And it was sort of like, well, when did that all change? So there was a lot of sense that things were may get ugly down there, or heated.
I came into work on the Saturday, and my staff told me that people had been there during the week, and they were people who I'd never seen before. And I found literature on my counters that was, I don't know what you call it these days, but it was like a White Australia type of literature that we immediately just threw in the bin. And then I saw a guy sitting there, and he was sitting close to the counter, and I heard him on the phone, and I heard him say, oh, yeah, get down here. And I thought, oh, I think you've got something to do with this.
You could tell it was going to be a very hot day, but it was like a muggy hot, really sticky, oppressive, muggy heat. Yeah, it was already there. It was already there at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's people having barbecues and music playing, but they were also drinking. And that, to me, at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30, whatever it was, that's a bit how you're going.
And I just remember seeing a lot of people and a lot of guys actually, and a lot of young guys with sort of like beer and this was like, you know, 8:30 in the morning, you know, with cases of beer, you know, doing the over the shoulder, and off they went. And I was like, it was kind of looked a bit odd from there.
I call myself half surfer, half photographer. Living on the beach and having that experience with that sort of tribalism, that localism, like this is our turf, you don't belong here. It sort of piqued my interest, and I was particularly keen to sort of pursue it and see where it led. So that's why I ended up going down there on the day to Cronulla.
I had a bit of a look around, and you do end up with like a sixth sense when you're burning a job for a fair while. I turned to the boys and I said, this is going to turn to shit by lunchtime. You watch me. There were lots of people there at that time in the morning. They'd come in from everywhere.
Yeah, there would have been, you know, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people there, and the road was sort of blocked off. It looked like a big street party, like an Australia Day street party. There were people with Australian flags and, you know, little Australian tattoos on their face. You know, eskies full of beer and people sitting on the back of their utes, and it wasn't until the grog sort of started to kick in and the sun got higher in the sky and people started, you know, taking their shirts off, and it started to get that real kind of a menacing primal atmosphere to it. There were a couple of sort of ringleader type people there, and there was one guy who had a loud hailer, and he was standing on the back of a car, and he was sort of lifting the mood in the crowd and getting, you know, cheers, and it brought everyone together so that everyone was focused on one thing and focused on what he was saying, which was words to the effect of, this is our beach, this is Cronulla.
And we don't need these Lebanese or whoever wants to take it away from us.
All of a sudden, this whole crowd was just flooding, chasing, because they'd been riled up into this frenzy. You know, I was just moving with the crowd. At the centre of it was this guy with the loud hailer, and then there were two young Middle Eastern guys. It was really getting ugly, like there was a bad feeling. Everyone focusing on these guys, and you could tell it only needed one little, you know, spark to go off, and these guys had nowhere to go. From a distance, someone threw a bottle. That was the cue for everyone to just jump in on these guys. I found it really strange to see people in the crowd there smiling and enjoying this spectacle, seeing two guys being attacked, two defenceless guys being attacked and completely outnumbered. Soon after that, someone called out that there were some lebs up at Cronulla Station on a train.
I can just remember watching them running like lemmings looking for a fight or whatever. They just seemed to be looking for something to happen, and I said, I think we'll pull the shutters down. I'm just getting a bad feeling.
That was helicopters everywhere. We didn't when we hit our helicopters, we recognized it's something not right. People start to come up from the beach. Thousands, I'll tell you, thousands. They were saying, we don't want wogs in our area. Go to the place you come from.
Get rid of them! Send them home!
It's something building and building and building, and make it make people start to hate each other.
Game on, Lemo!
You could actually hear what sounded like a stampede. And to be honest, I thought something had actually happened at the beach. Either who knows, like an explosion or something happened at the beach and people were running away to get away from it. And I remember seeing a couple of people that I knew and I'm going, what's going on? What's everyone doing? They're going, oh, they're going down to the train station. They're here. And I've gone, what does that mean? Like, you know, and I thought, what do you mean they're here?
And there was whispers going through the crowd of a trainload of Lebanese arriving at Cronulla station. I was taking pictures and I started to fall behind. And by the time I got to the train station, I was just, you know, amazed by what I saw. A lot of them were focusing on one carriage. There's two Middle Eastern looking fellas. 10 seconds later, a couple of guys just ran up the stairs into the train and started bashing these guys. There were bottles coming flying through the window. The rage was unbelievable. I kept taking photos. This guy is directly in front of me, getting kicked, getting bashed, punched. That's why I just had to put the camera down. I just started yelling at these guys, swearing at them. You know, get the F off him, you're gonna kill him. They paused, they looked up at me, saw I wasn't really a threat to them, and just kept going. Luckily, up the stairs came Sergeant Campbell, old school, with his baton in hand, and just whacked everyone.
I knew the only way to clear the carriage was to give them good reason to leave. But that's when I started striking people with my baton. Anyone that got hit by it obviously didn't want to get hit by it again. If we hadn't have got in there and I hadn't taken the action I had, those two young blokes would have been either seriously injured, very seriously injured, or possibly even killed.
They wanted blood, and that's what they got. And these guys were just so happy with themselves for what they did. I rang up my boss, rang up my picture editor and said, mate, it's all happened. I had to send the pictures through for them to believe how bad it was.
To me, the most unsavoury part of it was that it was race-based. I mean, to just single out one race as being, you know, the be-all, end-all of bad people. You know, I mean, it's just not right. It's just not correct.
I thought that everyone, like a lot of people, were going to get killed that Sunday. I honestly did. I thought there was going to be so much drama, and there was a lot of. Imagine, like, me as an Australian woman watching on the news, F the wogs and go back to your countries.
The ones that, you know, stand out to me was fuck off Lebs, and, you know, I think the other one was we flew here, we grew here, you flew here. That was like, you know, what's that mean to me? Well, I didn't fly here. You know, I didn't. It was shocking, and I think it showed. It was scary. You know, was I going to walk in the streets and someone's going to say, "Hey, what are you doing here? Go back to your own country." I've never had that. I grew up here. This is my country. My parents were out here way before I was born. I haven't known any other country like I've known Australia, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm Australian. I'm nothing else.
I've got a Lebanese background, but I'm as Australian as anybody, and it was like somebody was destroying something you'd been a part of creating. You felt like, I felt like I had made a contribution, and I felt like I belonged, and I felt like I loved the Shire. And to have all of these individuals kind of unravel what it was and It was really quite confronting, and it felt like something of yours was being vandalised.
Ethnic cleansing day, my new favourite day of the week!
All I remember, there was no escape. It was on the news, it was on the radio, it was on my dad's phone calls, we were all talking about it at school. I can't remember when I heard it, I just know it happened, and I just know it happened fast and it hit home hard.
I remember that time actually feeling really sad, like just thinking, this is not my country. This is not what I love. It was like shameful. It was just shameful. I've been really lucky. I've got really good relationships with the students, and it's developed on respect and it's developed on trust. So when they were coming to me to speak to me, and I'd speak to them in a playground or whatever, they would actually ask me for advice. Sir, can you clarify this? I don't understand. Why is this happening? All you can do is say, look, do not get involved. This is not something for us. It's now going to be dealt with in other ways. We can fix this as a community. We need to look at ourselves.
Went to the 6 o'clock news, watching news as per normal, and I was just shocked what's going on at Cronulla. And it was just unbelievable. It was just like, these people are not Australia. I mean, it was very hard to absorb that this, what was happening, what I've been seeing on the news, is actually 20 minutes away from where I live. It was like, no, that can't be right. It was like, where'd this come from?
When I saw the news crossings and saw what had actually happened on that day, I was horrified, but I was extremely surprised. I just did not think that this could happen in Australia. I just did not think that we would have people like this, or people would create such a scene, such a debacle of coming together. You know, it's one thing to show what Australia Day is, to be proud of your flag, but to turn around and suddenly became, this was just an out-of-control racist mob who were just escalating the whole cause because they wanted a cause. All they needed was a catalyst, and they had the catalyst of saying that these two lifesavers had been set upon, and that's the way it turned around. It was a bashing of Australian pride, almost.
It definitely gave rise to a new mode of expressing these underlying racist values. What previously might have been just seen as patriotic, now there was a new undertone to it, and I think a racist undertone. Certainly whenever I see the flag or the Southern Cross in a tattoo or a bumper sticker, I have this preconceived notion that whoever's flying that has these values which are not akin to what, the Australian flag used to represent for me.
When we were around the TV watching what was unfolding on TV on that day, we saw a girl wearing a hijab, Aussie guys ripping it off, and she was getting spat on and kicked and whatever. That was disgust and anger, and that was, at that point, that was when guys were literally sort of punching walls, like, we can't let this happen. It was as if it was a personal attack. It was as if my sister was on that TV. As night fell, the mood in the air had escalated. Texts were being sent left, right and centre. We all had a duty. All our mates were going to go. We had to go. The riot had come to us. There were so many Arabs, so many Leb guys who were just pissed off. We got word that there was a bigger group at Punchbowl Park, so we all went to Punchbowl Park. All that, God knows how many cars there was to go. Hundreds of cars, I'd say. Guys with bats, guys with knives, guys with whatever weapons they could grab. We weren't going to stop till we got somewhere, and somebody got hurt. We were talking about what we had and, how angry we were and what we're going to do, and one guy in the back mentioned that he had a gun. That's when I kind of looked at my mate and, whoa, this is serious. We were heading down trying to get to Cronulla, And the roadblock was just after Tom Ugley's Bridge. And they were redirecting cars, turn around, turn around, turn around. Unless you live there, don't even bother. And you could tell who lived there and who didn't, you know. The guys who lived there had their normal little cars on their own, going home, probably over 50. And 5 Lebs in a WRX did not live in Cronulla. We weren't going to go home. We were too pumped because there's still anger in there, there's still tension. We hadn't released our frustrations and the boys just wanted to do something. So we head down to Coogee. When we got there, someone had already been through there. There was cops swarming the area and there was windows broken off all these cars. We were all kind of like, what are we going to do now? The place was dead. There was nobody there. There was nobody to be seen. So we all jumped back in the car and took off.
Towards the evening, my wife asked me to go down and have a coffee in Brighton. This cafe happened to be directly across the road from the RSL club. And as we were about to sit down, I noticed a group of young men congregating across the road. And it caught my eye to see 20 or 30 of them, and I thought something's not right there. Within minutes, that group multiplied, and all of a sudden, one of them climbs the power pole, runs across the top of the awning and heads towards the Australian flag. Even before he got to the flag, I knew he's running for the flag, which he did. He brought the flag down. As soon as the flag hit the road, all the guys down there, attacked the flag, started pulling it. One of them had a bottle of flammable liquid, just poured it down on the flag and lit it up. And in the process, he caught on fire himself. My instinct at the time told me I should go and stop them. I should go and tell them, what is it you're doing? But luckily, my wife said to me, you're not going anywhere. It was very insulting to see the Australian flag being burned. It was more insulting to see that these kids are from the same heritage as I am, because I knew this will take its toll and it'll affect me and my family and everybody else within our community. I think it's appalling, but I can understand why 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds or 15-year-olds behave like that. Their views of things are different to mine or any mature adults, and they probably thought this is the way, and we want to take the law in our own hands and show these people that, that we stand for something, or if you hurt us, we will hurt you back. I mean, these kids are Australians and they're burning their own flag. These kids obviously don't think they belong to Australia or Australia belongs to them. And that is a terrible thing.
I was angry with the Middle Eastern culture. I really was angry because of the retaliation. Don't play their game. They want you to react. Don't react, don't react, don't react. And what do? They reacted.
Terrorising motorists on the Kingsway at Cronulla. Everyone on the street was in danger.
The retaliation attacks, a lot of it was news media. There was a lot of news flashes coming across, and then a wife being so close, we just heard, you can hear the sirens from Cronulla here. So the sirens were going red hot, left, right and centre, and she didn't know whether they're ambulance, whether they're police, where they were from. And I think that the retaliation was just all-out war. It didn't matter, who was being targeted. I've got a couple of friends who were stabbed and beaten up as a result of just walking the street, and that's how ugly it was.
I think for me, at the end, they were all under the law. What gives us the right to take the law into our own hands? Is it... And part of this, maybe the blame can be shifted on parents, Were parents aware of what their children were doing? Were they encouraging them? I dare say they were. I dare, oh no, you can't let them talk about us like that. We better get out there and do something.
I opened the kiosk the next day and there was no damage to us because the police had been there, but there were no customers either. And I felt physically ill over it all. I felt really ill for days about what I'd seen. And then in the days that followed, I can remember people walking past the kiosk with the flag draped around their shoulders. And they weren't locals. They'd just come in to walk down, and I felt like saying, go walk down your own street with the flag, leave us alone.
Well, the next day, after the riots, I, of course, went to work. It was a Monday. I opened up the shop first thing in the morning, as I said, about 8:30 in the morning, and within very few minutes, this young bloke comes in for a haircut, walks in, one of my regular customers, who would have been maybe 17, could be 18 years of age at the time. And he asked me to for a short haircut. He has long, surfy hair, or hairstyle, should I say. And he asked for a very short haircut, and I was a bit surprised. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, how come?" And he said, "Oh, look, I've got a job in stacking shelves in Woolies or something, and they asked me to get my hair cut and get it short." I said, "Oh, okay, fair enough, that sounds good." So I cut his hair nice and short, so he can go to work the next day or whatever. And when I finished with him and he left, as per usual, I went to the local news agency to pick up some newspapers, and I picked up the 3 daily papers. And on my way back to the shop, I looking at the front page of one of the papers, and there's him with remarks, I think, on his chest, "You flew here, we grew here," or something like that. But there he is. And that kid, I've known him since he was a child. I've known his whole family. I've known his dad, his mum, his brother and sister, since he was probably 3 or 4 years of age. If he was there to protest against the Lebanese, so to speak, what was he doing in my shop the next morning?
I actually remember being at a fruit and vegetable shop in Greenacre and seeing somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they're going, "Oh, have you heard, apparently the Bra Boys or someone's going to come down to the Kimber Mosque because there'd been the attacks at Maroubra." I didn't really think much of it. Went to my parents' house. And I'm sitting at my parents' house at the front having a cup of coffee on the balcony. And I just see these people just pulling in, and just running. And the mosque is like a kilometre away, and just running towards the mosque. And when I say people, I'm talking about like Lebanese, Muslim, Arabic, whatever. Not people looking like they're looking to make trouble. Hey, what's going on? The Bra Boys are coming to the Kimber Mosque. They said they're going to burn the mosque down. And it was like this instinctive, got to protect the mosque, as you would protect a church, as you would protect a synagogue. And so I went down there because then I realised that the situation was actually a bit more serious. I underplay everything. And when I got there, I just saw thousands of people.
There was a lot of bad feelings in the area in general, like everybody was primed up. I mean, it's like World War III is going to happen, or everybody's going to annihilate the Muslims in Australia, or something like that. And I got 3 young boys. They said, "Oh no, this is happening. We want to go. We want to go to Lakimba. We hear that they're going to come and burn the mosque and stuff." I said, "No one is going to come and burn the mosque, I said, "It's all talk. Don't worry. You stay here. You're not leaving the house."
And I just remember it went from a calm evening to an absolutely frantic one, where my dad was on the phone for hours, like absolute hours. That's when I remember my dad calling my brother home because he was out somewhere, and saying that. And I was worried that he was going to go. I remember being scared that he was going to go down to the mosque for, and be like something would happen. I was scared at that point for my dad.
When I got home that afternoon, I think it was about after 5 o'clock, and my phone rings, and "You better come to the mosque." There are just people all over the place. I got there and I'm saying, "What is going on?" I actually stood on the mosque fence, it's the brick fence. I stood up and said, "Hey, everybody, what is going on?" What do you guys want? We're going to protect the mosque. Anyone who comes near the mosque, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay, who are you? 1, like I've never seen you here before. 2, you're not a regular attendee of this mosque, for example. I'm not even sure if you're a Muslim. Are you a Muslim even? You know, so first thing, some of these people I just didn't know. So I wanted to clarify who these people are first. And we couldn't clarify that because they weren't responding. And I, quite frankly, I wasn't, for some reason or other, I wasn't thinking about who am I going to protect the mosque from. I was actually more thinking, I'm going to be protecting the mosque from you guys because I don't know you guys. By then, the news got to it.
There's numerous Middle Eastern males running towards the mosque with crowbars.
And the numbers accelerated. 50 to 100 people a minute coming into the mosque. Who came up with the idea to protect the mosque? We don't know. Who came up with the idea that the mosque was going to get attacked? We don't know. Were they there for the real reason to protect the mosque, or were they there to protect, say, territories? Was the Bra Boys and some of the Lebanese gangs had some type of issue was going on behind the scene we didn't know about and we found ourselves to be in the middle? We don't know. And I saw a lot of guns. And one guy that stands out, I could never take this image from my head. I actually happened to be between him and the police. And he had a gun on his side of his belt. And it was obvious. And I've actually pushed the guy away. It was that image never left my mind. And the police were standing behind me. And that was the trigger that I was concerned about. It was that somebody was going to do something and everything was going to get out of hand. And even up till now, it's like a bad dream.
I think it's important that we don't rush to judgment about these events. I do not accept that there is underlying racism in this country. I have always taken a more optimistic view of the character of the Australian people.
I think comments like the ones that people like John Howard made and people like Alan Jones made, I think were very unhelpful. And I think John Howard, who for me was in many ways a hero politician for me. I mean, I think he was probably I think he was the greatest Prime Minister we ever had. When he made the comments about him not feeling that there was this racial undertone, I thought he really missed an opportunity to put some of the behaviour on that day in its place and to take members from both communities to task.
I think it was really kind of swept under the carpet by the government at the time. I think racism was almost like a taboo word. No one wanted to admit that racism had anything to do with the Cronulla riots. Well, I mean, the people that mattered anyway. I think, you know, John Howard at the time was really averse to suggesting that racism was involved, and I think, you know, it's just quite, you know, it's so disingenuous for him to even suggest that.
Life changed. Life changed when that happened. When those, you know, when the riots happened, everything was different. I couldn't look at an Aussie the same. They couldn't look at me the same.
Immediately after the Cronulla riots, it didn't make sense to me. 7 years back, it still doesn't make sense to me. I definitely had a struggle of self. Who am I? What am I? Who do I want to be? And I think I felt that from a very young age. And I think that was very much a part of growing up in the environment that we did. Sorry. And I think that's unfair. I don't think anybody should have to feel like that from such a young age.
I'm an Australian-born woman. Okay, my parents came from overseas, but I was born and bred here. So I felt I didn't have that right to feel that I was born here. I couldn't go to the beautiful Cronulla beach and look at it. I can't look at it the same anymore. I don't believe it's our beach. It's only a white Australian Christian area. My son won't have the childhood memories I had at Cronulla Beach, no. I think we'll make those memories somewhere else.
I actually just felt sad that we as a nation had got to that. And a lot of people who then got up on their soapbox and said, oh, I can't believe we allowed this, can't believe anything. Well, what did you do anything to stop it? And, you know, I would hope, look, nothing like that will happen again. And it doesn't matter what's going to happen to the Muslim community or to whatever. Nothing like that should ever be allowed to happen again.
Now, the guys that were smashing cars were not just vandalising. And the guys at the train station, you know, that was not assault. They were quite serious crimes against... They were very serious hate crimes, I thought, and I thought they damaged Australia's image globally. I think Australia is a great brand. It's idolised and looked up to all over the world as a fantastic place. And then to have that, you know, as a lead story globally on CNN and Al Jazeera and all of the countries around the world looking at that and thinking, oh my goodness, what kind of place is this?
That summer on 2005, like the summer and the beginning of 2006, we did find out like the business is not like before. We was feeling it's going down, 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 and like we said, that's it. We sell it for, I will say, half a price. It was very hard for me when I decided, like, even the minute my husband said coming to sign, I was like, you know, it was very hard. It's our whole life. Like, you know, we was there for 19 years, and to sell the business like that and get out the way how it happened, I wasn't very happy at all. I was upset, and my customers and everyone, I missed them before I even left Cronulla. Yeah. And I couldn't tell them bye, see you later, see you, or goodbye. I was saying, I'll see you later.
There were no customers for a long time. The locals would come, but nobody else who felt safe to come to the beach, even though we had a huge police presence there for months, and it would have been the safest place in Sydney.
After it all happened, I felt that my role could certainly do some bridge building. We had media all around the world showing Australians fighting badly on a beach. I suppose what we wanted to do was to show that we had the cultures that could come together. We were approached directly by a group from Lakemba Sports Club. They had a group and said, we want to do our bronze medallion. There were 3 girls initially came forward who were both of Muslim and very, very devout of their religion and said, look, we want to do this, but we've obviously got a problem because of what we wear. And we made the surf life-saving burkini.
I was very apprehensive being part of this program to start with, because everything was still so sensitive and you could probably still feel a bit of tension in the air. Everyone that was part of this program shared the same vision and really understood that it was so much more than just having, you know, a whole bunch of kids qualify as surf lifesavers. It was just more than that.
Suddenly you've got this image of a girl wearing this outfit on the beach and going, hang on, here we've got Anglo-Saxons and we've got a group of Muslims all together on the beach. So the iconic imagery of that went all around the world. So I think it itself went a long way to repairing the imagery of previously from 2005.
It definitely feels amazing to be the first Muslim lifesaver woman, yeah, I guess in the world. It's definitely an achievement, and I'm very proud of that.
When I look at it now, what happened then, you really don't want to go back to it. And you really think that The people out with some agendas to do stuff, to say stuff like that, will realise that it doesn't benefit the other side or this side. There's nothing against Alan Jones. Don't think like I'm trying to make him bad or anything like that. I don't think he's a racist as in he likes black and white and stuff like that. But he's got to realise that Australia's not just for him anymore.
There are positives that have come out of not just the Cronulla riots, but just the multitude of what's happened in the last decade. It's made us have to be more proactive as a community, dealing with the mainstream community, mainstream media, but also how we deal with things within ourselves as families, as neighbours, especially within our youth, because it's so susceptible. And I say youth as if I'm old, and I'm not, but I just feel old to a certain extent looking back at this because it's been a lot.
If it would have happened again, I would do more productive things rather than go there and try to, you know, possibly beat up somebody who possibly had the same feelings I did, you know, anger and resentment. But, I mean, I wouldn't do the same thing. I wouldn't go down and try to hurt somebody. I'd definitely try to take a more productive route.
Personally, the Cronulla riots was a huge eye-opener and very kind of influential on my own beliefs and values and sort of understanding of the world. I think seeing that on that, you know, that relatively small scale made me realise just how pointless these differences are, the differences between cultures and skin colour and languages are.
For a while, it actually made me ask questions, yes. How deep is this? It made me question my own views, it made me question my own beliefs and values. But obviously, after a while, it reinforced my original views, that the vast majority of people are very accepting people, very friendly people. They're far from racist.
Cronulla is actually quite a nicer place to go today. The whole attitude of the Cronulla people has changed, and of the Shire. I think they're a lot more welcoming and open and to some degree embarrassed by what happened.
The aftermath is that it's a really nice area to be in now, and people that come there behave themselves. It's a family beach. On the weekends there are many different races of people coming. It's very pleasant, it's lovely, it's a nice place to be.
What we should take and learn from the riots is we really need to get over this hate that we have for one another, or whatever it is, and accept our differences, because our differences is what makes us. Our differences is what is special in this country.